Alright, so you've probably been stuck in these kind of scenarios where your teammates are either throwing, someone stole your lane and now you have a useless Pokemon, the enemy team is just keeping the pressure on, you cannot get a last hit, you cannot secure anything, and you just can't find those levels, and they start just beating you. It becomes an unfair match, and you pretty much just feel the snowball pushing against you constantly. This is the video for you. We're going to talk about 5 tips on how to start playing while losing, how to come back and hopefully still get that victory. So tip number 1, we got to level up. We got to find some XP, and luckily there's a bunch of ways. So this is going to be a bit of a longer part than the other parts, purely because there is some in-depth understandings I think you need to know to understand what's going on. So on the map there's a bunch of places that we can get XP already, but specifically there's only some XP that we can get when we start losing, and I'm talking about when they break our first tier 1 pads, our goals, then we start seeing these little yellow dots of XP show up. These specifically, these are very important. This is the game's comeback mechanic. It's built in. It wants you to keep playing. It wants you to win. It is giving you the opportunity to absolutely come back as long as we pay attention. I've seen too many times where we lose a gold pad and the team just storms right off to the last gold pad and they still want to try and fight, and they have over-leveled us. We can't win that fight. Their team is dominant now and we're spread and scattered. Some people on death counter cooldowns, some of us are damaged, and others just came back running in head first. It is not the ideal. What you do want to know is certain things like that every minute after you've KO'd these creeps, these minions, these wild Pokemon, you will see them respawn. So you will need this. It will allow you to stop their steamroll and allow you to actually just get some movement. Now there's a bunch of other places I think you should also be looking for XP other than just obviously these comeback minions, I'd like to call them, and they also have timers involved, and knowing these timers might be the difference between needing these comeback minions and not. So as you can see, there's a lot of numbers. You don't have to worry. All you need to know is that at 8 minutes the center farm, whether it's the birds, the bees, you know the story, they'll spawn. On either lane, it's 8 minutes 50 that they'll spawn. And all 3 of them, after they've spawned, after they've been, if they've been killed, if they've not been killed, at a minute 30 after they've spawned, they will respawn. They will continue to do that. You need to keep somewhat of a mindset. All the jungle minions as well, they all spawn back at around a minute after you've killed them. And then the most important ones, and this is the next big tip that I think you really need to understand, is which buff to get. So you need this bottom buff and you need the top Regieleki, but sometimes the bottom buff is more important. We'll get into that a bit later. Ideally you want to remember more or less when all these minions and the creep come back, purely because you actually need to farm these things, otherwise you're going to have a big problem. And the more accurate you are to the time that they return, you will find yourself, you will find yourself leveling up more and more and actually catching up to those enemy Pokemon that were pushing you off your gold pad previously, the ones that over-leveled you, because the more you now have experience to catch up, the less experience they actually have. We also want to kind of talk about, if you're winning lane and you've taken one of their gold points, you want to actually farm this experience. You want to stop them from coming back. So you really need to also pay attention to when the enemy gets this comeback experience. You also need to stop them from coming back. Now, with that being said, on a tip 2, you need to learn to play safe. You really need to learn to play safe. If your enemy starts pushing your gold pad and you just decide, I'm going to attack them, step out the gold pad, instead of doing a more strategic in and out the gold pad, get ready, do I need health, do I not need health, these kind of things you need to be more aware of. You also need to realize that if you don't have the numbers and they outnumber you and outlevel you, you're easy farm for them. You're just going to give them more XP. You're going to make the game easier for them, and they're going to have to try less things to actually snowball you. You'll also keep having a death timer countdown, so they just get lane and you're not there to even contest. So with that being said, the other thing you really want to do is you want to stay with your team. If it's going to the bottom objective, going to the top objective, if it's you're unsure of where their jungler is, you don't have vision on him, you really want to stick with your team, especially in this vulnerable position of you being underleveled or them being just extremely aggressive and you not having any ground to keep them off. If they've already pushed you to tier 2 goal, I will not suggest that you go solo. It really could seem like an easy kill, but it takes one blind shot from their jungle coming out of the bushes, especially with Meowscarada nowadays. You really will just get torn down and you'll just keep them snowballing because you won't be able to get the XP. You have fed them XP from killing you, and then they will also proceed to eat your farm, so you will just allow the snowballing process. Sometimes we need to stop ourselves before we actually stop the enemy. Now, that leaves us where we need to get to tip 3, and it might be a bit controversial of what I said, but you need to get some KOs. The quickest way to level up in Pokemon Unite is to KO a much higher level Pokemon than yourself, especially if it's the enemy team jungler, who should be around 2 levels to 3 levels above you. As you can see, here's Blaziken 2 levels above me. It's madness. We really need to get a KO on a high level Pokemon, and you can stop their steamroll immediately, because that will give you so much catch-up XP. It's crazy. The game really wants you to keep playing and keep trying. I mean, we just went down on screen, but we have to keep trying. We just have to keep trying. We need that juicy XP, but we can't end in trying to get it because that's counterproductive. We are just then helping them steamroll. And that gets me to our 4th point. Now, on tip number 4, you need your Unite. The quicker you get your Unite, the quicker you can stop the enemy team. If they get their Unite, most likely if they're steamrolling you and got you under pressure, they are going to get their Unite before you do. You need to get your Unite quickly, because the quicker you get your Unite, the quicker their Unites can't just be used without thought, brazenly. They will be punished if they just use the Unite onto a gold pad and there was no reason for it. There was no kill, there was no secure, there was no one to defend. But if you do not have Unite, they can get away with that. They won't be punished. More importantly, if you make a mistake, they will punish you with a Unite move, and they most likely will wipe your team out. If 3 of them have a Unite move, then only 1. If not any of you have a Unite move on your team, you will go down, and you're not going down swinging. You won't be able to fight them. The quicker you get the Unite move, the quicker you are able to remove pressure that they are putting on you. The most important part of your Unite move is you need it for your objectives. You need it for team fights, you need it for objectives, and you definitely need it for the biggest objective, which is raid. And that touches on our last little tip, which is also quite a large one. We need the objectives. You need the bottom Reggie. The first one is the most important. It gives global XP. If they are steamrolling you already, you need that bottom Reggie to stop them. If you are winning, you need that bottom Reggie to keep steamrolling. If you are getting the crap beat out of you, or if it's just a stalemate and neither is pushing hard enough, you need that bottom Reggie. It gives shield, it gives XP, and it gives buffs. You need those. The team that has that has the advantage. Yes, the Regieleki or Rotom, depending on what map you're playing, is it's the shinier pick, right? Everyone wants to go for the Regieleki or the Rotom because it just lets you dunk immediately. The issue is that if you're getting steamrolled or you are steamrolling, you are not getting enough XP most likely. You need that global XP, especially for the Pokemon that are behind, that are getting dunked on, that are getting absolutely pushed in lane. You need that XP. The Regieleki is not really going to help them. I doubt that majority of them will live long enough to push it into a tier 2. Tier 1 might be a different story, but tier 2, you definitely need the bottom buff. You need the bottom objective. The other objective that definitely is the most important is the bottom objective right before Rayquaza. If you do get this, the enemy team most likely has an uphill battle of a massive problem against you. They will not be able to steamroll you. They will not be able to most likely 5v5 you. If you get that buff before Rayquaza appears, you are most likely going to be able to secure the Rayquaza as long as there's no major casualties and everyone's at least above 50% health. And I know I said it's the most, but it should have been the second most. The most important is obviously Rayquaza. If you have Unite move and you're ready on Rayquaza, whether you're a Cinderace, a Blastoise, Meowscarada recently, you can almost definitely secure a kill on an opponent Pokemon, or at least wait for the last hit on Rayquaza. It is your best to last option to truly come back. Is if you forget everything else, I would say 90% of matches where you've lost tier 2 goals before 5 minutes, as long as you still secure Rayquaza, you should probably win. It depends on your teammates. I mean, if 3 people are AFK, of course you find an uphill battle. You may not get there. But if your team is losing, yeah, you're down 3 goals, but the enemy has only got 2 goals up as well. So yeah, they're ahead of you, but you're trying to not let that gap get any bigger. And you get Rayquaza, and you get Rayquaza with minimal casualties, say 3 people are up. I mean, that's around 300 points. That's enough to overtake at any point, and then it's just time to defend. And that's a big important thing. You need to know when to defend Rayquaza and when to attack Rayquaza. If you've got a super large lead, you should not attack Rayquaza without the enemy team at least being down 2 to 3 Pokemon. If they have 2 or 3 Pokemon up, especially if they have Unite, you need to keep track of the enemy team's Unite, they are most likely going to push you off that Rayquaza or steal it. There is the massive risk of that. But if you KO 3 of them and 4 of you are still up, if not 5, you need to rip that Rayquaza. But if all 5 of you up and you know you have that lead, you just need to oppose it. As long as you keep them off Rayquaza and keep them off scoring, you should be good. If you see one of them backgaps, that's your time to push the other teammates, hopefully get a kill or 2, and then you can secure Rayquaza. And that's really the 5 ways I think that you really could come back from a losing game. It's ways that I've seen and used myself. It's ways that's been used against me. And man, it's crazy. And for one last final tip, never surrender, but when you do lose, report and block those trolls. It's never your fault. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye!